Hey, how's it going? Will here from FlowCandy. Are you an e-commerce CMO, e-commerce store owner, or work on an e-commerce sort of marketing team, and you're weighing the pros and cons of, hey, do we go out and hire an email marketing agency or a Klaviyo email marketing agency, or do we make a full-time hire or a bunch of full-time hires? So I'm going to sort of break down the pros and cons and what I've seen. I've worked with hundreds of brands. I've helped a couple of them actually move it in-house and transition away from an agency like FlowCandy. So I have a lot of experience with this, and I'm just going to sort of share what I've seen over the past 5 to 10 years doing this. So I think the first thing when you're trying to decide, okay, do I hire an agency, do I go full-time or hire a full-time employee, is the capabilities of each one. And I will say that when you hire an agency, it allows you to sort of punch above your weight. A lot of these agencies have a lot of like the org chart figured out when it comes to managing omni-channel lifecycle marketing or managing an entire Klaviyo account, because it's not just hiring one employee. A lot of times you need someone strategical that can sort of manage the like a project manager that can sort of manage the whole calendar, that has a lot of digital marketing experience, can look at reports, but also knows how to work with designers and developers and copywriters, because these are also some other people that you will need on your team to be able to sort of execute campaigns and flows and other types of marketing collateral at scale. And again, a lot of agencies have this org chart already built out. At least in my agency, we have full-time developers, full-time copywriters, full-time designers on our team, and it allows brands to get access to that really fast instead of having to go out and hire them full-time, which could take months, and they might not have the budget to do that. And it's also you're paying, coming back to that budget, you're able to pay a lot of times under $10,000 for that org chart when you work with an agency, $10,000 a month, sometimes even under $5,000 a month, where if you were to go out and make all those hires full time, it could cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. You have to train them. So a lot of smaller businesses or even mid-market brands and enterprise brands, they just don't have the time and resources to do that. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is agencies have the systems already built. And that's another problem that I see a lot of brands when they're hiring full-time. They're hiring these people, but they don't even have the systems yet. What are those systems? Systems like new campaign checklists or SOPs around launching campaigns or campaign calendar planning, SOPs around launching flows or checklists around launching flows, SOPs and checklists around doing split tests or holdout tests. So all these sort of checklists and systems. There's this whole quality control piece that I think a lot of CMOs and CEOs don't really think about sometimes when it comes to deploying a lot of campaigns and flows and stuff like that. And agencies have that already built out. A lot of them have very thorough checklists, SOPs, resources. And so they're able to come in and quickly just deploy those SOPs, checklists, and systems on your brand. And so that's why it makes a lot more sense sometimes to work with agencies. So that was tip number two. Tip number three is agencies provide more flexibility. Okay, when you hire a full-time employee, especially if they're in the US, like they're on a W-2, there's their 401k, there's their benefits. You have to go out and recruit them and train them and onboard them. Sometimes, again, that can take months. Sometimes to do. And then if you're trying to bring in a whole entire team around your email marketing, like we need to bring in a designer and a copywriter, now you're having to do that for 3 or 4 different people, and it just takes more time and it gives you less flexibilities. Again, coming back to my other 2 points, agencies already have this built in-house. Like they already have these people already on a salary. You don't have to do any of that sort of hiring or all the HR complexities, or have the budget to do that. Again, agencies already have this on their org chart, and you're able, again, to just sort of leverage what they already have and deploy that for your brand. All right, so that was another sort of tip I've learned over the years. Now let's get into some tips on why it would make sense to bring it in-house. Because again, at a certain point, it does. I've, again, helped a couple brands do it. So let's talk about my experiences and share some of the tips I've learned along the way. So obviously I've talked about when you move it in-house, you're probably going to have to pay more, but what is the upside to that? Like, why would I pay more? Why would I want to move this in-house? And a lot of times when you move it in-house, you need a little bit more advanced thinking or more granular thinking on your brand. And that's, I think, one of the weaknesses with an agency. When you're hiring an agency, let's say, you have an account manager or a project manager that you're working with. They're also working on probably, at least in my company, normally like 5, 6, or 7 other brands. With agencies that are even more scaled up, sometimes it could be 10 plus brands. And so they don't have just a lot of brain power and bandwidth to really think about, like deeply think about your brand. And sometimes at a certain level, especially when you're scaling and you've reached that level, you need that level of thinking. And so I think that if that's where you're at with your brand, and again, typically, it's hard to say, but like I've seen it typically you start to see it at a certain revenue level. At FlowCandy, we have this thing called the 4 levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Typically, when brands get to level 3 or level 4, and again, level 3 and level 4 is when you're really trying to focus on omni-channel or lifetime value optimization, and you just have a lot of complexities with that. It typically starts to make, if you have the budget, to be thinking about moving it in-house. So again, that's the upside. If you're willing to pay more and you have the budget, it's like you're really looking for that like upper tier thinking. And I think that sometimes it can be a hybrid. Like you can go out and hire like a retention manager or like some sort of marketing manager or digital marketing specialist, and then they're really doing that high level thinking, but they're working with an agency. So you can probably get that done for like $12,000 to $15,000. Again, you're paying someone pretty high level who's on your org chart, but then all the blocking and tackling of that is deployed by an agency. I've seen that setup work really well. But then eventually those brands, when they get really big, like over $100 million, for example, I've seen this, they don't need that agency anymore. They have the budget to go out and hire designers and copywriters and developers full time. And sometimes they'll use them across different channels. It's not necessarily just email, but that's typically the roadmap I've seen after working with all sorts of brands. So that's one tip. And then another thing that I see too that's really important to think about when it comes to managing in-house is sometimes it has nothing to do with email marketing. It actually has to do with like your culture and the scale your brand is at or organization is at, and how you guys are sort of communicating across departments. Let's be honest, like once you get really big, more people get involved. There's more decision makers, there's more stakeholders, and it's just hard sometimes for agencies to find a footing in there. When you have all these different people working full-time on the brand and all these different departments, and then you have just this one agency who's handling email marketing, and a medium that's really, really important because it does drive a lot of revenue and it is sort of a central core part of the messaging to your existing customers. You need elevated thinking there. And so I think if you have like a lot of different departments or different agencies sort of communicating with each other across channels, it can be hard. And I think that that's where, again, thinking about moving things in-house becomes something that you that tends to be a discussion that a lot of brands will start to have, is because, hey, we just need someone who's going to be able to respond to the CMO, who's going to be able to respond to the CEO, who's going to be able to talk and leverage this and send this to our actual other agency that's running paid media or something like that, or if we have our whole entire paid media department in-house. So that's where I see, those are sort of the 5 things I see. Again, agencies allow you to punch above your weight. They have better systems normally. They also allow you to stay pretty flexible and lean. But then again, if you're leaning towards moving it in-house, like some of the pros are, if you can afford it, is that you're going to get that much more advanced level granular thinking. Again, you have to make the right hire there. You have to hire the right people. But if you do hire the right people, you're going to get that more elevated thinking. And then also, it's better in the long run in terms of like your org chart and being able to communicate across departments. So yeah, if you're stuck, let me know. Hopefully that helps. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions, or just email me anytime at will@flowcandy.com. Thanks.